You're not difficult to love. You're difficult to love halfway. You don't want a relationship that stays at the surface. You don't want comfortable silence that's actually just avoidance. You don't want a partner who's present in the room but absent in the conversation. You want the real thing, the full thing, the kind of connection that goes all the way down. And somehow, that one has made relationships harder, not easier. Not because you're broken. Not because you're asking for too much. Because you're asking for something that requires a very specific kind of person to give. And those people are rarer than anyone tells you when you're young. Today we're breaking down exactly why intelligent people struggle with relationships, and why it has nothing to do with being unlovable. Number 1. You need depth, and depth is rare. Most relationships operate at a functional level. Shared routine. Comfortable companionship. Enough overlap to make a life work. For most people, this is sufficient. Genuinely satisfying. A real and complete form of love. For intelligent people, particularly those with high emotional and cognitive complexity, functional isn't enough. They need a partner who can go deep, who asks the real question underneath the question, who doesn't retreat when the conversation gets difficult or abstract or uncomfortably honest. Psychologists call this need for cognitive intimacy, the requirement, in highly intelligent individuals, for a partner who can match their depth of engagement across ideas, emotions, and genuine self-disclosure. The problem: cognitive intimacy is rare. Not because people are shallow, because genuine depth, the kind that can hold yours without shrinking, takes a specific combination of intelligence, emotional development, and willingness to be fully seen that most people haven't fully built. You're not asking for too much. You're asking for something that exists in a smaller percentage of the population than standard relationship advice assumes. Number 2. You see problems others don't, including problems in your relationship. The same analytical mind that makes you effective at work makes you a precise and relentless reader of your own relationships. You notice the pattern in how arguments escalate. You track the subtle shift in tone that signals something unaddressed. You identify the structural issue underneath the surface conflict before your partner has even registered that something is wrong. This sounds useful, and sometimes it is, but it creates a specific problem. You are living simultaneously in the relationship you have and the relationship you can see it becoming if the pattern continues. Psychologists call this anticipatory relational processing, the tendency of high analytical individuals to continuously model the future trajectory of their relationships based on present patterns. The result: you are never fully in the present moment of your relationship. You are also in the projected version. And the projected version, accurate or not, creates anxiety, distance, and a specific kind of preemptive grief that your partner doesn't understand because they can't see what you're already seeing. Number 3. You have high standards, and you apply them to people. Intelligent people apply precision to everything they do. Their work, their thinking, their communication, their commitments, and, often without fully intending to, their relationships. The standard you hold for yourself, high. The standard you hold for a partner, also high. The gap between what someone is and what you can see they could be, always visible, always present. Psychologists call this relational perfectionism, the tendency to evaluate partners against an idealized model rather than accepting them as complete, imperfect humans. The problem: no one inhabits the idealized model. Not your partner. Not you. And the constant, low-grade awareness of the gap between who someone is and who they could theoretically be creates a specific kind of dissatisfaction that isn't really about the person. It's about the same internal standard that was never designed to be applied to human beings. Number 4. You process conflict differently, and it frightens people. When most people argue, they argue at the level of the argument. What was said? What was meant? Who did what? When intelligent people argue, they argue at the level of the argument and the meta-level simultaneously, analyzing the pattern of the conflict, identifying the underlying dynamic, articulating the structural issue that generated this specific fight. From the inside, this feels like trying to actually solve the problem. From the outside, it often feels like being intellectually overpowered. Like the argument has been moved to terrain that feels unsafe. Like the other person brought a philosophy seminar to what was supposed to be a normal fight. Psychologists call this meta-communicative asymmetry, the mismatch that occurs when one partner processes conflict at a higher level of abstraction than the other, creating a dynamic where the less analytical partner feels outmatched rather than understood. The result: Your partner doesn't feel heard. They feel dissected. And you don't understand why trying to understand the problem made everything worse. Number 5. You need your independence, and relationships require merger. Intelligent people, particularly those who have always had a rich, complex inner world, often have a deep, structural need for autonomy. Their own thinking space, their own projects, their own time to process experience without having to immediately translate it for someone else. This is not selfishness. It is the genuine psychological requirement of a mind that has always been its own most reliable companion. But relationships require a degree of merger, of intertwining, of being known and being available to be known. Psychologists call this autonomy-intimacy tension, the structural conflict experienced by high-independence individuals between the need for self-directed space and the requirements of genuine relational closeness. You are not afraid of intimacy. You are afraid of losing the interior space that has always been the place you go to actually be yourself. And the challenge, which nobody fully prepares you for, is learning to remain that person while also letting someone else in far enough to actually know you. Number 6. You've been misread your whole life, and you're braced for it. Here is the deepest layer. Intelligent people, who have spent years having their intensity misread as aggression, their depth misread as arrogance, their need for space misread as coldness, their analytical communication misread as emotional distance, enter relationships carrying something invisible and heavy, the expectation of being misread again. Psychologists call this defensive anticipation, the learned protective pattern of preemptively managing how you are perceived, based on accumulated experience of being misunderstood. In relationships, it manifests as a specific, subtle withholding, not dishonesty, a careful management of how much of the real you gets released, and at what speed, because you have learned, from experience, that releasing too much too fast results in distance. The armor, reasonable, built from real data. The cost, the very protection that keeps you from being hurt also keeps you from being fully seen. And the relationship you want most, the one where you are fully known, cannot be built from behind it. The truth, you are not bad at relationships. You are a specific kind of person trying to build a specific kind of connection, one that requires depth, honesty, genuine intellectual and emotional presence, in a world where that combination is rare and almost never taught. Need for cognitive intimacy, anticipatory relational processing, relational perfectionism, meta-communicative asymmetry, autonomy-intimacy tension, defensive anticipation. These are not flaws. They are the precise architecture of a person who cannot do relationships halfway, and who has been trying, for years, to find someone who doesn't need them to. The relationship you want is possible. It requires a different kind of partner than most dating advice points you toward. It requires a different timeline than most relationships follow. And it requires, above all, the willingness to lower the armor, slowly, carefully, with the right person, far enough to actually be found. You are not too much for the right person. You are exactly enough. If this video named something you've been carrying without words, subscribe to Wired Differently. Because the most lonely feeling in relationships isn't being alone. It's being with someone who can't quite reach you. New video every week. Because understanding why connection is hard is the first step toward building the kind that actually holds. You never needed someone perfect. You needed someone real enough to stay when you stopped editing yourself. Understand yourself. Understand everyone.